Me today for this month's Did You Know webinar. Over the next 15 or 20 minutes, I'll be walking you through an overview of best practice recommendations for running a course and examining data further in your Hawks courseware, with the hopes that you'll be able to make a few small tweaks to further student success in your course. I'll also cover a few places within the instructor platform where you can get and analyze data throughout the remainder of the term. If you happen to have any questions, please feel free to enter those into the Q&A portion of your Zoom screen, and I'll be happy to answer those as we go along. So with that, I will go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So as you can see, I have my instructor dashboard pulled up. So we are going to go into, first of all, the reports area. And when you click on the reports button, we're going to go over to the far right-hand side, and we're going to look at Assignment Reviewer. And with Assignment Reviewer, you have several options with this report. This is going to allow you to dig deeper into the lessons that you've assigned to your class, and also the web tests that you have assigned your students as well. The screen in the Assignment Reviewer will open up into a new tab, and it will pull up automatically the lessons that you have assigned your students. So for all the lessons that you have assigned, you'll have those running along the bottom of the bar graph in the middle of your screen. I have a shortened amount of assignments for my particular class right now, but for those of you that have your assignments running for the whole semester, of course, you'll have many more bars involved in this graph. So what you're able to do with this particular graph within Assignment Reviewer is you can look at each lesson that you have assigned and see information really quickly by looking at the colors of the graph. You'll see that the bottom of each bar has a green area. That means it will tell you how many students have completed the assignment. For example, in lesson 3.2, I've had 4 students that have completed and certified the assignment. If you keep moving up the bar, you'll notice it turns yellow. This means I have 2 students for this particular lesson that completed the assignment but completed it late. Now, this particular bar stops with the yellow. Let's move over to 1.1, lesson 1.1 on the left-hand side of the graph. You'll see I have green showing 3 students completed it on time. 2 students are in the yellow section, meaning they completed it and certified, but turned it in late. And then we have an orange box at the top of the bar that says the digit 1, meaning I've had 1 student not complete certify successfully and that it's overdue. So I can look at all of my lessons and see who completed it late. Now you can jump into each lesson by clicking on the link underneath each bar. Excuse me. Information about the lesson. So on this screen, you'll notice that we have our student names on the far left-hand side. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. The students on the far left-hand side with their email. You can also see how many students mastered this assignment. This is sortable, so if you click on score, you'll notice that I can sort this by either looking at who mastered the information on the top of the screen, or if I click it one more time, I can then see at the top of the graph at the bottom how many students and who have not mastered this particular assignment. It will tell me when it was due. Excuse me, y'all, I'm so sorry. I was hoping this would not happen, but it did. It will also tell you how many attempts the students have gone in and attempted certify. It will also let you know on the far right-hand side of the screen how much time the students have gone in to learn, practice, and certify. So this is a great way for you to go in and look at specific students and see who has mastered, who hasn't, and what type of work they're doing. If you notice over here on the far right, you'll see that Eric has spent a total of 6 minutes in practice, but spent 12 minutes in certify. is showing us that he's spending a little bit more time in Certify compared to the practice. So we really need to make sure we pay attention to that and talk to students who are just kind of off kilter in their amount of time in practice and Certify. You can also click on the student's name and get the information on their attempts for what they've done for each lesson. So this is something I use in my students' classrooms whenever I have my office hours or I'm working with them one-on-one after class. I can bring up their attempts that they've gone in and worked on to see what exactly they're doing to make mistakes and what they're working on correctly. Excuse me, I am so sorry. The next tab on this screen is the analytics screen. This is going to show you by question within each lesson what the students were successful with and what they were not. So this breaks down our lesson 1.1 down by the 8 questions that I have in this lesson. So I'm able to look at question number 1 and see that 42.9% of my students got question number 1 correct. But I'm looking at 57.1% of my students missing that question. So if I'm wanting to do a whole review for a student or for the whole class, like if I want to do some type of review game, I can click on the 1 underneath this bar, and it's going to bring up a sample question that all students would have seen in Certify. So I can review this topic either as a whole class or with individual office hours. So this is a great way to be able to review lessons, and you can also review web tests. Again, this is in Assignment Reviewer. Another thing I'd like to show you is search by criteria. This is a report that I use every week on a Monday, so I could at least give my students time over the weekend to work on their assignments, to play catch up or anything like that. So I would run this report on Monday mornings just to see where my students stand with things. When you click on search by criteria, this report breaks down information in 2 parts. You can either use the left-hand side of the screen and work on grades, or you can use the right-hand side and work on activity, meaning how much time are they spending in certain types of lessons. So if we wanted to look at the left-hand side on grades, you can start with very generic information and look to start and end points. So if I wanted to see in my class, an 80 is where students can pass. If I wanted to look at what students were showing as their overall grade between 0 and 80, I would put that information in and click Filter Report. Once that report is run, we'll give it just a second. Once that report is run, you will then be given a list of students who fall between a 0 and an 80 in their grade for the course. So this will give you a quick way to either email the students directly from this screen. You could select their names and click send message, or you could jot their names down and talk to them after class or call them into office hours. So this is a great way to kind of whittle down who you really need to speak with about their progress. I also liked to do this whenever I had students in my classrooms to give them praise. I would do a filtered report from 80 to 100 and then send them all a congratulations email saying, great job, keep up the work. You're doing fantastic. If you wanted to dig a little bit deeper, you could click the second option. And this allows you to look at students who have a grade between, let's say, 0 and 80. And you can select the assignment group. So if you wanted to see who's not passing in Certify or who's not doing too great in test, you can get a little bit closer to the details whenever you click this second option. And then the third option, you can get even closer and select your information. I'm still going to stick with 0 to 80. And you can now select for a specific assignment. So if you wanted to look at just one test or just one lesson, you could go to this drop-down box and select that, and it would give you lessons specific ranges in the list of students that you would need to reach out to. So it goes from very broad to very specific on the left-hand side of the screen. On the right-hand side of the screen, we're talking about activity or how much time they're spending in the Hawks courseware. The first report is going to want you to enter in a certain number of days that you would like to see for students who have not logged in. So this was really good for me to use whenever I'm working on attendance. It says students who haven't logged in for, let's say, 4 days. That would throw a flag at my college when we're talking about attendance. So I can filter this report. It will show me exactly who hasn't logged in, and we can move forward with that information. The second option with activity is students who have spent less than a certain number of minutes in any lesson or web test, and you can also filter by date here. So this will tell you anybody who, if you've assigned a web test, who hasn't completed it or not spent a certain amount of time, you could go right here and find out. And then the third option, this allows you to look at the number of times students have tried to certify between a certain 2 dates, an end point and a start point. This will give you an idea of who's really going in and still working on those graded activities and who's spending more time in practice and learn or not completing assignments at all. So again, this is the report Search by Criteria. These two are my absolute favorite reports whenever I'm looking at my students' work. I use them all the time whenever I was using Hawks in my classroom. Another thing that I'd like to remind you is if you go over to the Tools tab, I know at this time of the year, it can get a little hectic for students, a lot of assignments coming due, getting ready for that final exam. So if you wanted to set up something to remind students of what's coming up and what is coming up due, you can click the Tools tab and then go over to the far right-hand side, Communications. When you click on Communications, you can click on this bottom option, Reminders. And when you click on Reminders, you're able to go in and create a customized automatic reminder that will be emailed to your students one by one. And it will have your name in it, so it will look like it's very personalized from you. So if I wanted to do this, I would click on my section title. So Math 101 Section 1. I would title this Spring 2024. And then I'm able to select whether I want to have certification reminders, web test reminders, or other assignment reminders. If you want to do certification reminders, you can click the first box and an email is going to automatically pop up for you. You can change this if you'd like, but just note it will have their first name listed in the email. It will have the due date that the assignment is due with the lesson name. It will remind students to work through learn and practice modes before they go into certify, and then your name will be at the bottom. And you can customize this by clicking on however many days in advance you would like this to happen. So in my class, I like to use 2. So I will be sending out a reminder for my students 2 days before all certification assignments are due. And it's automatic, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. If you want to make sure your students are seeing the web test and that you're reminding them, you can click the box underneath the web test reminder. It will look very similar to the certification reminder, except it's going to have the test name and the end date, and your name will be there, of course. And you can select how many days in advance you'd like for this to happen as well. So this is a great tool to use, especially at this time of the semester when so much stuff is coming at your students from all classes, right? They're not just taking math oftentimes. So this would be a great way to still communicate with them, but automatically, to where you don't have to keep reminding yourself to send them out reminders. Are there any questions at this time? I don't see any questions in the Q&A. Again, I'm so sorry for the tickle in my throat. I knew it was going to happen, but I sure hoped it wouldn't. Any questions from you all? Okay, well, I wish you the very best for the rest of the semester. As always, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We are here to help you. And I appreciate you all attending today. Have a great rest of your semester. Bye.